In America, we're often conditioned to believe that we have to scramble for our worth, trained to believe that we need to perform to receive respect or belonging, told that good things come from struggle versus growth, fighting versus creating with. Now, churches can fall into this mode, trying to hustle for your time, talents, or treasure, especially in budget season. I am grateful that we live a better way, that at UUCA we are not transactional, not performative, not scrambling, but rather we are here because we want to be. We are here to create something together, and that what we are creating is meaning. We are a meaning-making community. That means we not only do things, meet, serve, worship, organize. We do those things. We meet on Zoom or in person. We serve meals, brew coffee, offer rides, close windows and lock doors. Yes, we do worship. Gift us with music, lead us in reflection, light candles, express empathy and compassion. We do organize classes and curriculums and registrations, organize for legislative change, organize our community towards justice. For we do meet, we do serve, we do worship, and we do organize. But also, we do those things to observe and enact the values that we want to shape our lives. So what can we observe about who we are as a people, making our way both with new leadership and in the face of the most disruption that this world has seen in over 50 years? Who are we in 2021? By our actions, who have we shown ourselves to be? I have seen that we are a people who, in response to the risk and fear inherent in this COVID pandemic, balance safety and community and hope to figure out the safest and most connective way to begin worshiping simultaneously here in person and online. In total, actually, our attendance is not far off pre-pandemic attendance numbers, which is not the case almost anywhere. So today, I just want to give holy praise and thanks for you for coming and joining, for our reopening team, for our tech deities, ushers, greeters, coffee hour hosts, musicians, and staff. Come on. Why do we show up? Because we want to be in community with one another. We want to see each other's faces and hear each other's voices. We want to give and celebrate with music that vibrates through us. So we drew upon scientific and medical expertise and figured out how to do this hybrid worship together. We are people who show up with compassion and empathy. We check up on each other. And we meet with ministers in the office, on Zoom, and hospital rooms to talk about how it's going with ourselves, but also with our families and with our coworkers. It's not easy with all of our people. Reverend John is also forming and training a new wellness team that is going to be debuting in the next few months. If we've learned anything in this pandemic, is that taking each other for granted is not a luxury that folks have anymore. We are people who celebrate the return of families, parents, children, and youth on Sunday mornings. I love the little bubbling from the playground we have some days. We currently have 57 families enrolled. Pre-COVID, it was 80. And we are showing up for them too. By sharing our collective wisdom, we help guide parents and caregivers in the wonder, mystery, tedium, and terror that is parenting. Bravery is all among us. We are people who care for memories of those who have passed into death before us. And so we had the groundstone pavers in the memorial garden replaced and reset. Water diverted from the memorial stones where names were carved in. And new benches were ordered so any can sit in memory, stillness, or serenity. We are a people who know this earth as sacred, and that this is the only home of the beloved community. So our Project Drawdown team helped forge a partnership with Neighborhood Sun, an organization that helps people purchase green energy at competitive prices. And actually, green energy through Neighborhood Sun is now available at below standard prices for low-income houses. So please spread the word. We engaged in ethical investing, divesting from fossil fuel. We are a people who know this earth as sacred, the sacred ground beneath our feet. We are people who have a vision of beloved community. Our dedicated Building the Beloved Community Committee has increased the number of opportunities for us to take their essential 8th Principle Practice series. About half a dozen of us, UUCA folks, completed the UUA Beloved Conversations program. Reverend John and Josh and our people of color regularly serve and participate in Drum, a national UU multicultural community. Why? Why is this so central to us? Because as John Donahue writes, we desire a state of wholeness, a place where everything comes together, where loss will be made good, where damage will be made whole, where the clenched question will open into the house of surprise, where the travails of a life's journey will enjoy a homecoming. It is our spiritual work. So each of our spiritual themes that we lift up in worship help us engage the spiritual practices of beloved community, so we could grow our capacity to call that blessing of wholeness, coming together, homecoming into being amongst us. We are people who know if we were only for ourselves, then what meaning would our values have? So working with Anna Rundle, Connecting Together, we work to address the crisis presented by the number of people who would have lost their housing due to the pandemic. As Reverend John will mention shortly, we helped guarantee government funding to launch Turnaround Thursdays to help move underemployed and unemployed persons to full employment. Since August, we packed and have delivered winter relief lunches to 50 homeless residents at the Red Roof Inn Hotel in conjunction with Arundel House of Hope. I joined UUs and other interfaith people of faith at a White House action led by those on the front line of our climate crisis. Why do we do this? Because we know that love in public looks like justice and compassion. We are far from done and have so much to learn. There are questions we must answer. How do we implement our 8th principle? How can we become conflict courageous, voicing the values that drive us while also listening to that which we could say yes, not merely no to? How can we grow connectiveness and purpose, diverse and loving community within this county? We don't have all the answers yet, not at all. Yet when I think of all that we've done in this 1 year, I have hope in the possible. I believe we could answer these questions with our actions and embody our values in the process. So do we have to scramble for worthiness? I don't think so. Instead, we could deepen and extend those practices so that all I named are not confused with mere accomplishments, but rather are known as a set of practices that move us towards our vision of being a bold and compassionate people who experience the beloved community with one another. Later today, when you consider the budget, you'll be seeing a lot of numbers allocated into various categories. But in the end, the budget is just a mechanism, a means of allowing our membership to say yes. Yes to community, yes to care, yes to learning, yes to children and youth, yes to this earth, yes to beloved community, yes to serving our neighbors in this county, yes, yes, yes. My prayer and trust is that we are saying yes together and yes to enacting values that we want to shape our lives. May it be so, and amen.
What's happening in this world right now is quite depressing. In so many ways, when you think about the Rittenhouse case and the Arbery trial, injustice and justice, the parents of that young man in Michigan, it's just a lot. This never-ending pandemic, I don't know if you looked at the numbers, 786,000 people in the United States have died, 5.2 million globally. Trumpism, polarization, everyone is mad. I don't mean crazy, I mean angry. Maybe crazy too. I was listening to some lawn guys talking, and they were telling me that this was the end of the world. And I chuckled because, you know, I don't follow that theology. But then I was hearing some of the construction guys were working, and they were saying it too. And I was like, something's going around. It does sort of feel like the end of the world, whatever that feels like. But all is not lost. If you believe in hope, if you believe in love, then all is not lost. Sometimes I feel discouraged and feel my works in vain. But then the Holy Spirit revives my soul again. There's a revival when you believe in hope. Thanksgiving, we just celebrated that. That revived my soul. Seeing my children, being with my family, even though it was the first one without my dear mom. She died in May, as you know. I was sitting with a member just a few days ago who did not want to join the church publicly, but privately. So we made that happen. And I listened to her talk about all the things and reasons why she wanted to join this church. And it touched my heart. It warmed my heart. That was a comeback for me. And then another person who whose uncle was my best friend. He died tragically very quickly. She's listening now on Zoom. She said, I want to join your church, Latino Native American woman in Oklahoma, joining our church, becoming a part of our ministry. Touched me. She sees her values reflected. Last Wednesday, 100 people came to Asbury United Methodist Church, 200 online, 21 from this congregation. The county executive said, we are pledging $1.3 million to turn around Thursday to help mostly Black folks, by the way, get jobs in Annapolis and get employment, living wage, job training. A lot of good is happening. Hope is still alive. In golf, they call it the comeback shot. I don't think my shoulder can golf much anymore, but the comeback shot is when you can have like 17 terrible holes, and on the 18th hole, you just hit one perfect shot. You don't even know how you did it. And you're like, I'm going to play another round of golf. That's an expensive way to get hope. But that's what I'm talking about this morning. That's my continual prayer every day, every week for this congregation. Don't let apathy and despair seize you. Call forth the light to cast out the shadow. And love casts out shadow. And shadow hides from the light. But there's a fine line always, because too much light can burn, scorch, cause cancer. So balancing your love and hate, we heard the choir this morning, they sang about love and then hate. Balancing your love and hate, that fine line, that's what we call wisdom. And wisdom teaches that too much of anything is not healthy. We can actually love and care for someone too much, smothering their growth. We know we can hate too much. We know what happens with that, but we don't actually realize that we can also love too much. Living in the balance. That's how we move our congregation from good to great. And as one of your spiritual leaders, I'm dedicated to moving this congregation from good to great. And that means transforming this congregation into a growing and thriving, diverse, multiracial, multi-generational spiritual community that is an emotionally, spiritually awake. A community that is inclusive and generous, compassionate and bold in proclaiming love as the spirit of this congregation. And, you know, for some people, that might not be your thing. And I get it. If this is not where you want to go, you have free will. But that's where we're going. And no one has a clear understanding of what that looks like. There's an old Hindu Upanishad quote that says, to know is to not know. And to not know is to know. You see, I've always been leery about those who think they have all the answers. Like when our last president said, I alone can fix this, as if he was God. That, as I preached, is fundamentalism. And that's why I left my last religion. I will not subject myself in any way as a leader to fundamentalism. We must be balanced in our racial, spiritual, social, and intercultural development, remembering that we are all involved in an evolutionary learning process that is personal, but it's also interconnected. We are one. So there will be many fits and starts in this process, going to a place that we really don't know. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will. Whoa, yeah, yeah. And this journey is full of the functional and dysfunctional. Now, if you're part of any family, then you know dysfunction. And when you study family systems theory, you get why things are so messed up in the world. And the church is no different. We bring to our congregation all of the stuff, the baggage from our environment and our upbringing, the virtue and vice. We bring our family systems, we bring our birth order, ways of garnering attention and love in our family, ways of surviving. We bring all of our tactics and traumas to our interpersonal relationships. I'm preaching this morning. We bring all that function and dysfunction, the preacher included. No one is exempt. That's why humility is necessary. I don't care how old you are or what color you are. You bring the family system stuff into every relationship, and it clouds the universal truth that we are made by love for love. It clouds sincerity. It creates division. We need wisdom and humility to keep moving forward successfully as a congregation, to move from good to great. And believe it or not, that's why I started Awake Ministries. Remember that? Actualize your wisdom, awaken to your karma, and engage the process. I was on to something. We have to own our own stuff, because when you don't own it, you project it. And a clear example of this, I'm not making this up, was my maternal grandmother. She married 2 alcoholics who were abusive to her. My grandmother was a sweet lady, incredible, generous lady. But I know that she was recreating a scenario she had seen growing up over and over. And then she had an alcoholic son who was abusive. He was my uncle. And I had to live with him for some years because he became homeless, and he lived with me in our small 2-bedroom apartment in Washington, D.C. And poor him, he was a veteran, part of the Vietnam quagmire. Product of his upbringing, a product of his experience, his environment, his genetics. But he was also responsible for his own life, the cards he had been dealt. We all are. Awaken to your karma. I witnessed his kindness and his alcoholism firsthand. I saw how his trauma affected him. And he had an impact on me. It's why I don't really drink that much, if ever. We find ourselves doing the same things in different relationships, or attracting the same person again and again, for better or worse. Different features, same personality. I'm preaching this morning. Now, when we mix that together with a family or a congregation, well, you've got a quagmire. And that's why leadership is so hard. It's hard to figure out things with so many disparate voices. Who do you listen to? Well, you have to consider intention and motive and baggage, psychological projection. I don't have all the answers. I don't want to have all the answers. I enjoy co-creating with you. But I do try to listen to the voice of voices that are balanced and caring and compassionate. As a religious institution, that is what differentiates us from an advocacy group. Love is the spirit of our church. Love is our way forward. We all have a penchant for egoism and narcissism and tribalism and fundamentalism, far left or far right, doesn't matter. Our congregation has to be better than that if we want to move from good to great. And this love requires wisdom to know the difference. The Unitarian Universalist Church of Annapolis that I see is one committed to moving from good to great. We do many good things, as Anastasia mentioned. And I love that we have stepped up and put our financial resources behind a Black-owned bank, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that we're getting a line of credit to finish our construction through that Black Bank, Harbor Bank in Baltimore. I love that we are offering racial literacy classes, that many of you have stepped up and are stepping up to grow in that area. I love that we hired a contractor of color. Thank you, Stan Keeve, for bringing that contractor to us, who's doing this construction work, built that beautiful ramp. We are doing a lot of marvelous things, good things, but good is not enough. There's more that we must do. What is it that we must do? It's actually not that complicated to become great. We have to become more organically and intentionally welcoming. With all due speed, organically and intentionally more welcoming means that we say we must be the congregation that we say we want. We must become the congregation we say we want. If we want new members, you have to invite new members. If we want more people of color, you have to invite more people of color. If we want more generosity, you have to be more generous. There is no secret sauce in church. You are the secret sauce. Being the change you wish to see means you shift from you and they need to we must be the change. That is how love will prevail. That is how we will move from good to great. And so as we prepare for this congregational meeting, remember that greatness will not be measured by all the things we do, but how well we love each other in our complex and dysfunctional, interconnected family called the UU Church of Annapolis. May it be so. Amen.